Hi, we're continuing on with video 5 now of Metaphysics of Being, and I'd like to start out, I'll read and we'll get back to the board again. Escher tiling, an infinite number of triangles in an enclosed circle. No matter how small you go, you can always make a smaller triangle within another triangle within a circle. A finite image contains an infinite amount of images. This is one of my favorite pictures. You have a finite set, finite image, and within that you can have an infinite amount of images. If you put triangles in here, big, small, whatever, and if you kept putting in infinitely smaller images, triangles or whatever, within there, you can have an infinite amount of images within a finite set. So we looked at that with the line, but also in this image as well. So that's really an amazing paradox as well. Moving on in the book, the end of a line is a point, which is nothing. We have our line, a finite line, and at the end of it are points. And as Euclid said, those are nothing. The end of a line is infinite, since it can never be reached due to an infinite regress of smaller units. Therefore, infinity equals nothing. Now again, going back to that concept, we have a finite line here, and if this is 0, and let's say we're moving along this line, how do we get to that last point there? We can never quite get to that last point and touch it. We're getting infinitely close to that. And again, this is that point, that critical point that I've been coming across, is where infinity merges with 0. Infinity has been described as Zero's show-off twin. In Charles Seif's book, Zero, The Biography of a Dangerous Idea, they have many characteristics in common, and some would argue that they may be one and the same in many respects, or at least they wrap around the circle of logic in some way to merge with each other. For example, any number divided by 0 equals infinity, any number divided by infinity equals 0, any number times 0 equals 0, any number times infinity equals infinity, the sum of all positive and negative numbers on a number line is 0. The quantity of all numbers on a number line is infinite, and infinity times 0 is 0. In the end, it is infinity and ultimately 0 which engulfs everything. Some would say that God created the universe from nothing. It appears in a brilliant way that incremental units of nothing so infinite build up to a something which we call reality. It is due to our limitedness as humans that we see the finite something rather than the emergent infinite nothingness that lies below it. God transcends our conceptions within space and time. Space-time approaches both infinity and 0 simultaneously at both ends. This correlation may be at the heart of many paradoxes that seem to crop up when our limited minds try to conceive of an unlimited world. Arthur Milne described how he believed that there may be two space-times from the beginning, one which starts at 0 and one which comes from infinity. Therefore, moving backwards, as if space-time merges with infinity at the Big Bang. Moreover, it may add light on the theory of relativity and the belief that there is no absolute space-time to the universe. In one sense, time is incremental with a concrete starting point. In another sense, time is continuous, like a compact series without a starting point, middle point, or end point. Picture two parallel lines with which logic tell us never merge, yet as we look off into the horizon, out towards infinity, it appears that they do merge into one. They start as two, merge to one, approach infinity, and fade away into nothingness. So again, if we had two lines here, parallel lines, From our vantage point, we're here viewing them. We see the two parallel lines, and then out into the distance, they would appear to merge into one. So our limited view, we see two merge into one. They would continue off what we would perceive as infinity, and ultimately we would have no view, verging into nothingness again. It is this relationship between 1, 0, and infinity that creates the illusion and paradoxes of our logical system. As Anaxagoras said, everything is in everything. This was stated, I don't know, 2,500 or 5,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, I believe. On the one hand, we can say that something is one in its entirety from a macro view. We can also say that it has infinite parts. We can also say that its most fundamental unit is a dimensionless point, as Euclid did. Therefore, it is one, infinite, and nothing all at the same time. It is there and not there at the same time. It might be more accurate to say that nothing is in everything. Oddly enough, any time that you say that something is one, it is really two. It has a beginning and an end. But once you say that it is two, it must be three, since something must be between 1 and 2 before they're to divide them into two. Otherwise, they would be one. This process goes on to infinity. If we say that there are two things, being and non-being, the question arises, what separates the two from each other? How does something get from not being to being, from potential to actual? As I stated above, doesn't something become one if nothing separates the two? This is exactly the case and supports our notion that reality is in a state of superposition of being there and not being there at the same time. Otherwise, what would be the defining moment between being there and not being there? It would be one over infinity different from each other, which is no difference at all. So I conclude that the difference between being and not being has to be nothing. If on one side we have nothing and on the other side we have something, doesn't nothing start to engulf the something, since in between the two is again nothing? Where does the something ever start and the nothing end? It doesn't. Or you can say it all completely the other way around and ask, where does nothing ever start and something never end? It doesn't. So if you had something here and nothing there, in between the two, there being nothing, something, nothing, and nothing. So the nothing starts to merge with this nothing, and then again there's nothing to separate the two. So again you have this paradox of how does it get from this point to this point. And it's almost, if nothing is separating the two, the nothing and the something, doesn't it all become one again? So that's just another paradox and another way to look at it. And at this point I'll end this video.